Hello, this is Spellsguys MTG, and today we're looking at mulligans in Commander. So, what is a good hand to keep in Commander? When would I choose to mulligan it? That's what we're going to be looking at today. Also, what should we be looking out for in a decent hand in a Commander game? So, once we have a deck which has the ideal proportions of ramp, card draw, etc., how do we pick our hands when playing a game with that deck? And a disclaimer, CDH decks often are very different. The pilot knows the deck very well. CDH decks often run different because they run 0-mana rocks, which changes the factors almost very considerably, as they have different land and ramp ratios. Also, if you struggle to get these ratios consistently, try adjusting the ramp and land ratios, card draw, etc. to fit how your deck runs. So, what is the most important factor when considering your opening hand? Lands. Make sure you have at least 3 to 4 lands in your opening hand. More than 5 means you won't have anything to cast early game, and you'll get overtaken very quickly. And then if you have 2 or less lands, you won't be able to cast anything, because you'll be stuck on 1 or 2 lands. You won't be able to play any ramp, play any card draw, cantrips, anything, because you don't have enough mana to cast them. The only exception I'd make to this rule is when you have 2 lands in hand. Make this clear. 2. And a Soul Ring. Never be tempted by a 1-land hand with a Soul Ring in it, because that's probably the biggest mistake most Commander players make when playing Commander. Another thing, obviously it's fine if you keep a 3-land hand with a Soul Ring, and that's fine. But 2 lands is the minimum, I'd say, as long as you have a Soul Ring. The next category is land colours. Make sure you have either all your colours in a 1 to 3 colour deck, and any more in like a 4 to 5 colour deck, it's sort of unreasonable to have that. So just ensure you have all the most prominent colours in your deck. So often that would be green in a 5 colour deck, because all your ramps can be green. So you can use the green ramp to search for other colours of mana. And also, if you struggle to do this, improve your mana base and ramp so they produce mana of more than just 1 colour. So you can easily fix your mana and be able to cast the spells when you want them. I'll hopefully do an episode on mana base at some point in the future. Often with your mana, also ensure you have the mana to cast your commander, because often the commander has a value engine on it or something. So if you can get that out, you can do other stuff in your game. The next thing is ramp. I'd recommend at least 1 to 2 ramp spells in your opening hand. This can get you going quite quickly, so you can accelerate in the game and cast some of your higher mana cost stuff a turn or 2 early. Especially in a deck with a very high mana curve, you're going to definitely want ramp in there. So make sure you've got early mana rocks and or land ramp in your opening hand. Also make sure you have spells to cast. So I recommend either 1 to 3 in your opening hand. So one of these spells can be a mana rock. So make sure these spells you can cast with the mana you have available in your hand. So if you've got 3 lands and a Soul Ring, that's 5 mana. So make sure you have at least 1 card you can cast with the mana available in your hand, because you're not guaranteed to draw lands off the top of your library. Always remember that. So never keep a hand with just 6 CMC cards, because you'll just get behind. Even if you do have a Soul Ring and 4 lands, don't keep that hand, because it'll just be too slow. And even multiple 5 drops is too high. 1 or 2 is fine, but any more and you can't really do much early game, and you just get steamrolled. And it's also a good idea to have cantrips or card draw as well, or a cheap card draw engine, or just a fast draw spell like Night's Whisper, so you can start getting more cards off the top to find more lands to play when it comes to time, so you can play your commander and carry on with your game plan. Other good things to have in your opening hand, often removal is very good. 2 more than 1's probably too many. Also the same goes for counter spells. Try and only have 1 in your hand, but it's probably a good idea to have some, so you can deal with early threats. Another good thing is a small creature to block with. Like I mentioned in my last episode about dealing with fast decks in your meta, you don't want to have something to block with, because if someone sends a large creature your way, you can put that creature in front of it, or it might dissuade them from attacking you in the first place, so you don't have to block with that creature. This can be very effective, because often the creature may have an effect on it, like Eternal Witness, and it's just a leftover creature which you don't actually need anymore. Also cheap board wipes, so you can prevent early fast decks from getting so out of control with a massive, huge board state. And now I'm going to be looking at some examples from my Intet the Dreamer deck, my Omnath Locus of Creation deck, and my Duretti Scrap Savant deck. So the first opening hand contains 3 lands. It contains a Command Tower, a Mossfire Valley, and an Unclaimed Territory. It also contains a Warstorm Surge, a Bear Umbra, Beast Within, and a Fertile Ground. Remember, our commander is a 6/6 dragon, which gets us cards off the top. Choose whether you keep this hand, and you can see whether you're right or not. I would personally keep this hand because it's got all my colours. I've got red, green. I can get all my colours with the Unclaimed Territory, and I can get all my colours with the Command Tower. Also, there's a ramp card in my hand, Fertile Ground. Beast Within is a removal spell to get rid of early aggression, because this deck, once it's off the ground, it's fine. But if you don't survive till then, there's not really much point. So the Beast Within can allow you to survive till you get off the ground. For Bear Umbra, it's very good because you can protect our commander once we get it out. And we can use the lands it untaps to pay for our commander's activated ability to get a card off the top, so that's very good. And then Warstorm Surge to act as a bit of more removal. This card isn't really relevant in an opening hand, but this is still a very good example of an opening hand. Okay, next we have our Omnath deck, my Omnath deck. This hand has 4 lands in it. It's got a forest, it's got an island, Mystic Monastery, and a Selesnya Sanctuary in it, along with Wood Elves, Mulligan and Wildborn, and Rampaging Baloths. This is another good example of a good hand. I want to try and get a bad hand to show you an example of something I'm mulligan away. So the forest is very important because we can play our Wood Elves. We've also got a Mystic Monastery to get our other colours. We've also got white and green to fix white. We've got blue, so we've got all of our colours. We've got more ramp in the Meteor and Den, and we've got Rampaging Baloths, which is a card to play later on in the game. So that isn't a very effective hand. I'm going to try and get a bad hand, so I can show you an example of something I wouldn't keep. Okay, so finally we've got a bad hand. So this hand only has 2 lands in it. It's honestly not the worst hand I've ever seen. I'd say it's probably keepable, but a mulligan is probably favourable in this hand. So we've got Plains, a Forest, we've got Sylvan Reclamation, exile up to 2 target artifacts or enchantments, bit of removal there. Roiling Regrowth, sacrifice a land, and you get 2 more. We've got Rampant Growth, basic land on the battlefield, tap for 2 mana. We can cast that, so that's good. We've also got a Mind Spring, draw X cards, and a Scavenging Ooze. The Mind Spring and the Scavenging Ooze are probably... The Mind Spring's definitely dead early game. Same with the Sylvan Reclamation, because you don't really have many value engines set up by then. Scavenging Ooze, we can probably play... We probably won't be able to play it before our commander comes out, so that's irrelevant as well early on in the game with this current hand. So I would personally mulligan this hand. It's better. There's better hands we could have. But if you didn't want to go down to 6, this is probably definitely a keepable hand if you didn't want to have to go down to 6 cards. It's not completely unpreferable, but it's not unusable, if you know what I mean. As we can cast our commander with it, which is the most important thing. In this next hand from my Duretti deck, you've got a cantrip in the form of Cathartic Reunion. You've got 2 lands and a Basalt Monolith. If you can get another land, you can definitely play with the game because you've got the Basalt Monolith to ramp you 3 mana. So you can cast your commander. And then sacrifice the Basalt Monolith to probably get a card you discarded with Cathartic Reunion at your graveyard. And you can get the Basalt Monolith back the turn after. So this is definitely a keepable hand. And as in the commander you do get 2 7s in a row, I'd be very happy keeping that, and you wouldn't have to put it on the bottom. So the next thing we're going to be looking at is how far should you mulligan down. I would never recommend mulliganing past 5, 4 at the most if all of your hands have had no lands in it. If you can get down to 5 cards with 3 lands in it, you're going to be fine. However, if you go any lower than 5, I entirely just wouldn't recommend it, because you won't have enough cards to do anything. Even if you have 3 lands and a ramp spell, you're just going to have no cards in hand after that. Unless you get incredibly lucky on your draws. But definitely don't go lower than 5 cards, because you will get overran. You won't have any cards in hand to cast any spells, and you'll probably lose. I don't find myself not really having to mulligan past 6, but if you're really having problems, increase your land ratio, increase your number of ramp spells. Because often not keeping a good hand will result in you losing a game. I think that will be all for today. Thank you for watching and goodbye.